So we've been reading a lot of posts recently about this mysterious metagame and its problems within the Planetside 2 community. But one of the real big problems is that I'm not seeing a lot of solutions that are realistic. So me, and a lot of other players thought to ourselves, why don't we find something that addresses real concerns, but is realistic and achievable in a relatively short period of time? But here is where I'd like you to come in. We're going to try out a brand new experiment, but I'm going to need just over 10 minutes of your time, and to see if together we can change our game for the better. If you don't have 10 minutes to keep an open mind, you really should stop watching right now and come back when you do. So, for those who are still here, great, thanks. I really genuinely appreciate everyone's time, but before we get to how to solve it, we really need to define what it is. See, metagame gets thrown around a lot, and so many people have these different definitions for it. Now, I'm not going to give you a dictionary definition, but I am going to tell you what I think it is, so that we can have a real, meaningful discussion with both of us on the same page. Simply, to me, metagame is the ability for our strategic and tactical choices to impact the game in a meaningful way. Strategy are the high-level macro decisions, like we should take Paris from the north, or we should take Leopardwood first and then attack from the south. Tactics, on the other hand, operate on a more micro scale. For instance, we should spawn at Paris North Tower, get up light assaults, take the West Vehicle Shield Generator. Both are very important, but they also play a huge and completely different role in how players enjoy this game. See, tactical metagame is something that the game does decently. This game provides a really adequate toolbox to deal with some of these situations that come up. You can really impact the battles by using creative tactics, and there are a good amount of strategic flow in order to capture a base. Tactically, this flow to the battle is incredibly important. Most notably, there are only a few ways into the base. Once you get inside the base, there are multiple objectives inside, multiple things to do once you're there. Then, once you have your objective, there are a multitude of ways to actually complete those objectives. So tactically speaking, we have a flow to the battle. There are a few ways into each base. You have multiple objectives once you get there, and you also have multiple tools of dealing with each problem. Sure, there are a lot of places for improvement. Balance, tweaks, variety, things can be added to this, but this isn't really where I think the big issues lie, so let's put this on the back burner for the moment, and we'll come back to it later. Strategic metagame, though, that's a whole different animal. Strategically, these conditions really don't exist. Unlike in bases, you have very little strategic flow. You can't predict where you need to attack, or where, importantly, you need to defend. You realistically only have 4 strategic objectives. You can capture territory, defend territory, capture an entire continent, or defend an entire continent, which, let's face it, are basically the same kind of thing. And even then, you only have 2 impactful tools in your toolbox of actually dealing with the challenges of completing objectives. You can either fight an enemy head-on, or you can distract them to go elsewhere, then take the neutral or empty base. See here, compared to the tactical side of things, there's not a lot you can do due to the lack of these alternative objectives and a lack of meaningful, impactful strategic tools. And really, the key word here is impactful. Sure, it's all well and good if you can go camp their warp gate with boosters and deny aircraft around their warp gate, but that doesn't really have the realistic and consistent chance of changing the tide of battle from a strategic continental level. Again, it's not impactful. We need these strategic objectives and tools that make a real difference on the continent as a whole. Now here presents the challenge. See, we have this great core game with decent tactical gameplay, but lacking in high-end strategy that's really inherent and necessary for this game. Sure, there are ways to change the fundamental aspect of this game, like redesigning bases, adding ladder systems, and do a slew of other things that would probably really improve the metagame experience. So then why haven't they been done yet? It's very, very simple. These tasks are incredibly difficult to do, and will take a lot of man-hours and money to get us a fix that might take 6 months or even a year to bring about. So we need to do something simple, something that could be done in a month or less that helps us improve the state of the game today. We need a system that adds strategic flow, adds new emergent objectives, and gives the player new things to do without spending too much time on it. It's not as difficult as it sounds, and with our system, there are two mechanics in place that can already make this happen. So how do we do this? Two ways. First, we do something that made the tactical metagame so much better. We add walls, and not physical walls. Those impacted the tactical metagame. What we do is we add hex walls. Hex walls will utilize a mechanic that was used in early beta known as neutral territory. See, these were zones that were not owned by anyone. They didn't contribute to influence, but were also a playable game space at the same time. Fights still happened in neutral territory. These territories can be used in many interesting ways. By creating both hard and soft choke points across the entire strategic landscape, this now adds a completely new dynamic of strategic flow to continents. There are predictable paths and routes to capturing certain areas of territory, while not limiting where the fight can occur and still allowing a lot of the freedom that the developers want in this game. This will primarily be done by utilizing both hard and soft choke points in hex configuration. Let's look at one way this can be used by looking at one configuration of neutral territories on Esamir, at Not Amp Station. So Not has now become this hard choke point. There are only 3 territories that connect to Not, and by holding it, it acts as the fastest gateway for the TR to the southeast, or a secondary route for the Vanu to get to the TR warp gate. And as we zoom out to see Isen Seiro, we now see that that route is the primary way for the VS, and the TR have a secondary route to the southeast, providing multiple paths to get to large chunks of territory. In another example, we see how Not has now been restructured as a soft choke point. Now the base still has only been given 3 avenues of attack, but now there's an alternative route to bypass the base altogether and for the TR to attack Frostfall, or for the VS to attack Grey Heron. This adds strategic flow while not restricting the fight and allowing multiple paths to victory. So let's consider this neutral territory in conjunction with another mechanic that's already in-game, base benefits. In our first example, we talked about how a choke point would allow for a few paths into your territory. But what this also means is that there are only a few paths for the benefits from your home bases to get into the bases deeper into enemy territory. Most importantly, the tech benefit. In this configuration, Esamir munitions is the primary path the VS have taken. Let's consider they've already pushed into NC territory, and you're a small outfit looking for a way to really impact the battlefield. Now, by making your way through smaller outposts, you could capture and hold Esamir Munitions Corp, effectively denying Vanu bases deeper in your territory tech benefits, without having to take the entire tech plant. This really shows us the versatility of the idea. In this example, you see that there are large swaths of territory that are untouched by neutral hexes, allowing us to still have these same open areas where you have multiple avenues of attack and flank. So, by adding neutral territories, you've increased the strategic flow of the map, you've added new strategic objectives, as well as new tools to accomplish those objectives. The realistic ability to deny enemy facility benefits. So this clearly gets us closer to having a really meaningful strategic metagame in Planetside 2. This brings us to step 2, adding attrition and siege mechanics. See, this would be accomplished by utilizing another mechanic that's already in our game, supply lines. Currently, as you can see before you, when you have territory connected to your warp gate, the resources flow to the warp gate. From there, they then expand from the warp gate to every single player on the continent, regardless of location. This mechanic would be changed so that resource delivery would now be location aware. Now, resources would only flow to players in territories either connected to the warp gate or adjacent to territory connected to the warp gate. So that as long as a player was in connected territory block or an adjacent territory, they would continue to receive their resources. By utilizing this mechanic, we can now encourage players to fight in territory that's connected to their home bases, encouraging a stronger front line. This also adds a brand new way to capture heavily defended bases. Let's say the TR players are holding the stronghold, but they've been cut off from their warp gate. At this point, the TR would only have the resources that they brought with them to the fight. Suddenly, tactically, the TR must play significantly more conservatively to hold out longer. Now, you see the NC playing significantly more aggressively to continue destroying TR vehicles so that they no longer have any more resources to pull their Burster Max and tanks. Alongside these new tactical objectives, it creates an interesting and emergent experience for people like these Terran Republic Spec Ops outfits, who now have a new way to impact the battle. Suddenly, the TR have this great new objective. They need to reconnect that territory to the warp gate. Imagine the tension as your outfit fights to reconnect Terran forces with their dwindling supplies. It's simply awesome. These are the kinds of moments are the ones that you're going to tell your friends about for years to come that are so unique to Planetside. It'll make you feel like you're actually making a difference again. So now you have new objectives that when you cut off enemy territory, you're not only cutting off their tech benefits and their ramp station benefits, you're cutting off their very resources. Suddenly, those smaller outfits have reasons to hold smaller territories again. As you can see here, that when you use both of these different new dynamics together, they absolutely fundamentally increase the metagame of Planetside 2, both strategically and tactically. So now finally, here's where you come in. Planetside 2 developers have been incredibly active on tons of social networking sites, but I wanted to take this one step further. So we've contacted SOE, and they've agreed to host Planetside 2's very first community design meeting on Saturday, December 26th at noon Pacific time, streamed on Azure Twilight's Twitch channel. But this won't be the only idea featured. So ask yourself right now, do you agree with the changes outlined in this video? Great. Upvote it, share it on social media. But if you don't, I don't want you just to say to yourself, I don't like this is stupid. Instead, think about what you would do. If you think you have a good idea, write a post, make a video, record a podcast, and then submit it on Reddit with the proper tag by January 24th. The creators of the 5 ideas with the most upvotes will be invited to attend the meeting live with the developers on the air. So check the Reddit post for more details, and I really can't wait to see what you come up with. Thanks for watching.